Hi everyone, we are live and today we are talking to Tyson Walker from Proppy.co.nz and Bryony Tesar from Mortgage Lab. Tyson's based in Wanaka, but Proppy have agents all across the country, and Bryony's based in Nelson. Before we go any further, let's have a bit of a logo. All right, and of course we've got to show this disclaimer. Anything you hear in this video, don't make any significant financial decisions based on just a discussion that you see on YouTube or Facebook for sure. But feel free to get in touch with anyone who's on the video and run any questions you've got by. The other thing is, if you're watching this live, you can also pop up any comments and we will do our best to try and answer them. So if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to flick them up and we'll give it a go. So Tyson, just tell us a little bit about Proppy and sort of where you're located and what your point of difference is. That'd be great.
Okay, thanks Rupert, and thanks for having me on today. Yes, so Proppy.co.nz, we've been operating in the marketplace for about five odd years now, opened in 2015. And we have agents spread pretty much across the country now, from Auckland right down to here in Wanaka, and we're recruiting all the time, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, our point of difference, I guess, is we're an online real estate agency. We're a fully fledged online option in the marketplace. So what that means is we still have agents scattered throughout the country to help our clients and vendors selling their properties. They'll do the open homes, etc. But we've got a really great platform that actually allows people to buy and sell and do the whole negotiation process or online auctions through that platform. And probably the best thing is it's 1.5% commission. So.
Right. So they save lots of money and it's nice and easy and online. That's brilliant.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Paperless in action. Good.
Yeah. So Bryony, tell us a bit about where you're based and your sort of background.
Well, I'm based in Golden Bay, about good hour and a half from Nelson. And I actually previously did work for Proppy as a real estate consultant. So now I'm a financial advisor with Mortgage Lab. So yeah, we're all teamed up and we're ready to go.
You know both sides of the business.
Yeah, and that's really useful too, right? Like I think it's really good to have an appreciation of what real estate agents go through. I think that is underappreciated a lot of the time, and
Yes.
And also to see the financial side of things. So that's really great. So what we wanted to talk about on this stream is what have we seen in the market, because as Bryony will go into later, we've seen a lot of changes in the finance side of things. So what have you seen? What's come out from, say, REINZ lately, Tyson?
Yeah, well, we got the October results from REINZ just recently, and what we've found is, month on month from September to October, they've gone up 30% in terms of sales. So that's quite a big jump. But seasonally, we would expect to see quite a big jump in the market at that time. What is different, though, is the down on last year's sales numbers. And we're seeing that and all the agents that I speak to throughout the country, whether it's with Proppy.co.nz or other agencies, listings are still quite difficult to get in this marketplace.
That's interesting. So, because as a layman in the real estate agent world, my guess would have been that investors were starting to think about hocking off their existing properties for those tax reasons, but maybe that's a bit too early. So, what do you think? What do you think has brought about that decline from last year, but increase from last month? Obviously, last month is coming into summer, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think I don't want to bring up the dreaded COVID conversation too much, but if you wind back 12 months ago, people we were coming out of COVID and that original first lockdown, and a lot of people were really pent up and they started listing their properties. So there was quite a pent up sort of springboard, I guess, last year. So when you compare this year to last year, it just feels like it's sort of dulled down a bit. And I think that's why you're seeing the disparity between the two financial years.
Brilliant. And Bryony, what have you seen locally? So as we say, you've been on both sides of the fence. What are you seeing in sort of small town New Zealand and Nelson, but also Motueka and things like that? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And because I have been on both sides of the industries, I do still keep an eye on the REINZ reports. And basically in the Nelson Marlborough region, they have seen a median price drop in the October report. But interestingly, it's in Nelson area, not so much the Tasman district. Tasman district saw an upswing. So that was interesting. Yeah, the HPI is still really strong. It's showing an upward line. And days to sell are down. So yeah, I mean, people are still in that, what do they call it, Tyson, the FOMO mode, fear of missing out still?
Yeah, I think there's still a bit of FOMO there. I think it might be slightly waning a fraction now, but the prices just seem to be just sort of keep on skyrocketing up, and I think that's probably on the basis of lack of listings, and so people are still looking around for property, and it's driving prices upwards.
Yeah, it's supply and demand in action, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I did see that the report from Tony Alexander on property appraisals increasing, but not necessarily bringing that equal value to the market. So do you think that's just buyers wanting to know the value of their property without getting a proper registered valuation?
Yeah, no, I think people are, it is seasonal as well, and we're in the season of selling, and I think people are actually really quite genuinely thinking, gee, the market's pretty high at the moment. It's maybe possibly a great time to put my house on the market, and it looks really good during the summer. So why not try and push it a little bit and see what sort of price I can get. So we're getting really, really busy, a lot of appraisals going on. So I think Tony Alexander is right, and he's a great economist. So I think he's probably right on the money.
Yeah. I just found it interesting because you don't have the sales to match those appraisals, but he did say that the appraisal balance was more on investors bringing their properties to market than other regular property owners. Are you finding that there's more investment properties coming to market?
Yeah, I think we're just starting to see it. Yeah, I think we're starting to see investors potentially offloading, and it's quite hard to bracket investors into one bucket, but I call them mum and dad investors, that might have one or two properties that are like lying outside of their prime residence. I see those coming to market quite quickly at the moment, and we're already starting to see it, I think, with the new rules around rentals and just the price point being pretty high at the moment. Mum and dads are sort of saying, you know what, it's a little difficult to actually manage these properties. I've only got one. Why not take advantage of those higher rates, so higher prices? So I think that's what we're starting to see now.
I think you're right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think there's been so many changes to investors that you've got the warm homes, healthy homes kind of requirements, and now the big one is the interest rate deductibility on your mortgage, which is $15,000 a year of additional cost for an average sort of an average Auckland house, and even though it's only creeping in over the next 4 years, that they've got to be thinking about what are we doing with this property, which is look, it's not a bad thing, right? That frees up property for first home buyers, in a market that, you know, typically wants to buy that sort of price range. And then the new investors can get into new builds, high quality homes that they can rent out and meet those healthy home standards. I think it's great. Yeah. So we were talking earlier, Proppy has a bunch of sections available, which is kind of a sign of the times, I think, right? So just walk us through those sections and
Yeah, thanks, Rupert. Yeah. Well, we are selling 66 sections in Carmo, just above Whangarei there, which is really, really exciting. And, you know, we've got a really great development up there selling, and a great developer who has done lots of this sort of stuff before. But what he sort of said to me was, well, you know, let's make it fair. Let's make it fair for first home buyers and building companies and the like. So why not let's load it onto proppy.co.nz and we can auction the whole lot of them. So that's what we're doing. It's really exciting. 66 sections all by way of auction over the next 3 weeks, and we're doing sort of 4 or 5 auctions a night, so people can come in and view those and be able to bid on them. So and I guess to answer your question, Rupert, though, in terms of those sections, you know, what that does is that's freeing up land for people to actually come in and build a brand new home on it, and make sure that, you know, if you're a first home buyer, you're living in a nice warm home. It meets all the healthy, home standards, that sort of stuff. So I think we're starting to see a flight of sort of people wanting those new houses rather than buying the older existing stock with issues, you know.
Bryony, what are you seeing in terms of people reacting to the newer interest rates? Are people getting their head around it? Are they a little concerned about it? What's your sort of view of it?
I think the interest rates are pretty much accepted. I mean, the economy, the inflation has gone up, and, you know, the OCR pushes up to try and reduce that as one of the levers. So that's just that's just a standard feature of the economic cycle, isn't it? And people are very accepting of that. They're more I'm not sure the right word to use here. They're more concerned about making sure they get an approval with the bank based on all the other criteria that has come into play, such as DTIs, responsible lending, and all those aspects. So that, I think, is a bigger concern than interest rates, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
I mean, I think we could probably do about 2 hours of a live stream on just DTIs and triple CFA. It wouldn't be a very interesting live stream, but it would be. We could definitely talk about it for that long. But yeah, it's there's a lot happening in the market. But I think the takeaway is, you know, new builds are exempt from the LVR restrictions, and so typically they're easier to get lending for. You know, that if you keep your expenses clean over the past 3 months, which, you know, look, hand on heart, my expenses aren't always clean. I'm known to Uber Eats now and then, but you know, if you try and minimize those, then when we present that application to the bank, that gives you the best step forward. And I think that's your secret to getting in, right? Like, I think, Bryony, you'll probably find that the clients are having a bit of a transition period of minimizing their expenses. Have you kind of found that?
Exactly. It's more about self-awareness of making sure what you're presenting to the bank is suitable to fit that new criteria that's going to be into effect very shortly. So the triple CFA.
Tyson, are most of your properties, they're all auction? Is there any by offer or deadline? Or
yeah, totally. So we actually get quite mixed up a little bit, and people sort of think we're just an online auction house, but we actually do the full gambit. We do, you know, by negotiation, fixed price, tender. So yeah, the majority of houses still have either a price or an inquiries over number on them. But we have got that really nice string to our bow that we can do the online auction thing, which is pretty good in COVID sort of scenarios, because people don't really want to be in a packed auction room, you know, right now, so they can do it from home. You know?
That's right. I live in Tauranga at the moment, and it just arrived in the suburb next to us yesterday, so I'm fully aware of being a heightened awareness of COVID, having been protected from it for so long. So yeah, it's online is the way.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that Proppy's online system is just amazing. I mean, and talk about preparing for COVID in these situations. It's the perfect example of modeling for the future of real estate. I mean, as long as you have all your photography and your video footage all ready to roll, if there was a lockdown, Proppy could just carry on forward with that online auction and provide all the resources for you to walk through that property and do everything online, right from signing that agreement to just everything's compliant and ready to go. So it's great.
Yeah, no, I think we've done a good job at housing it all in one package, because what we're seeing is sort of like a little bit of some of our competitors, I'm not going to name names, but they haven't quite got the full end-to-end listing, selling, auctions, signing documents all housed within the one platform. So we were probably a little bit more along the spectrum. We've been doing this since 2015, so we were sort of ready for something like this. And we've had some really, really great results, even in lockdown level 4. Some of our houses selling in Auckland, not a problem. So it's been great.
It's probably worth as a bit of a self-promotion as well that Bryony and the Mortgage Lab team can also do mortgages fully remotely. We were a bit the same, actually. We were always set up to do Zoom, and moving will no longer be an option. Level 4 used to be the issue. With the traffic light system, assuming you meet the double vax standards, I guess, then which we're not going to go into on a live stream, but yeah, I think moving will be. So we're there, right? You've got companies like Proppy and Mortgage Lab doing it all, so it's great, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good collaboration, because real estate and mortgage broking sort of works hand in hand, and so I really like the ability that we can help. It's all about helping our clients and helping people. So whilst we're in the business of selling properties, we've got so many buyers that we want to look after, and if we can channel them through to Mortgage Lab and make that transition quite seamless with the banks and get their finance in order, then, potentially we're going to get a sale in the end of it. So I think it works really, really well. Good collaboration.
Yeah. All right, let's do some crystal ball gazing, and this is very much the bit that you don't make financial decisions off anything we say from this point. Bryony, why don't we go interest rates first? What do we think, let's say 12 months from now, what are we going to be looking at?
I think we're going to see some stabilization in later part of 2022, but the OCR is still going to push up rates, which will, of course, set the banks off in predicting that or acting on it when it happens. In terms of the economy versus interest rates, it's all based around that inflation factor, and you've got a real push-pull happening now. You're going into the new world environment where people are going to experience some freedoms and they're ready to roll with their new business restructures operating in that new environment. And that's going to really push the expansion towards more business in the New Zealand market versus the other side where you're going to have people that are actually there's a bit of fear involved, and that could actually create some labor shortage supplies and decrease spending in the market. So that's what I mean by the push-pull. So I think that's going to moderate the economy a bit and slow that interest rate towards the second, probably third and fourth quarter of next year. That's my crystal ball gazing. There you go.
I every year I write a prediction for interest rates, and every year I'm wrong.
I was going to say, how are you going with that, Rupert?
Almost 0 for 4. I think it's, when it dropped from 6 to 4.5%. This is great. This is probably as low as it's going to get, and of course, it's completely wrong. So so it's always very brave to forecast. I actually I can't disagree with anything you said, Brian. It's I think it's about the same. Yeah, edging up next year, and but then a bit of stabilization. I think that's probably spot on.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Tyson, that means for the property market?
Oh, well, I think the market, there's always conversations going on. The market's going to crash, and we've got Armageddon sort of coming. I don't actually believe that. I actually believe we may see a little bit of a flattening out process going on over the sort of next 12 to 18 months. I think these prices have been sort of booming up, and I think we will see a bit of a stabilization. But I don't think we're going to see the crash that some pundits sort of like are saying. I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to sort of been living under a rock or a cave if you didn't think that interest rates were going to, not go up. All the signs were there, all the economists were sort of saying that inflation's been rising steadily. So, I'm not surprised that we're going to see some OCR rate hikes. And what I think that will do is that will slowly dull the market a little bit. But I think in general, most New Zealanders are actually, they're fairly used to interest rates being sort of in these sort of numbers. Historically we're very, very low still now. So I think it's not going to scare the general public off either buying or selling. So I think we're going to get just a continual gradual slowdown, but still movement going on.
Yeah. And for those of us that remember sort of 2008, when it just seemed,
remember it well.
The market had just gone crazy. I was in Wellington at the time, and it just, if you were new to the market, it seemed like everything was just going to tip back down to correct that price. But in fact, what happened was just a flattening, really, and a lot of that is because of the controls that the Reserve Bank has on the availability of finance. So they can push a lot of levers these days. Boy, they used to be only able to do interest rates, which is why we saw 11% for interest rates. But now, I mean, as Bryony will tell you, debt to income ratios, LVRs, responsible lending, all these things they can tweak it. And that provides a lot of stability in the market, because you can turn the tap on and turn the tap off for finance, which is of course the buyers, right? So I think that's bodes well for the property market.
I think it probably if you're going to pick on one group, I think the first home buyers are going to find this quite a difficult period, with the DTIs, house prices at a historical high. It's really, really tough going for them. And, I'm not sure about what you guys think, but, clubbing together to me is a really great idea for first home buyers, or going in with your sibling, your brother or sister to buy a house. To me is probably the way that the first home guys get into the market, and then they can springboard from there.
Bryony, any thoughts on that? No.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about one of the updated calculators we had from the bank this week, where they had actually added on 4 applicants versus the standard 2. So obviously that's part of a solution to what you're talking about, Tyson. I mean, if you want to get into the property market, you need to provide that serviceability, and that's one way around it.
It's interesting. Like, so we've actually done a few open homes of late in Tauranga, for example, so near you, Rupert. But my guys and girls that have been running these open homes, they've actually just about been traffic controllers, right? So they've actually been, the queue's been snaking around down the road to get into these houses. And guess who's there? There's lots of first home buyers, but what's interesting is the numbers are really, really high. And the reason why the numbers are high is actually because mum and dad are with them, or their brother and sister are with them. So instead of having groups of 2, you've got now groups of 4 going through these open homes. And I think that might show a state of what people are doing, that they're really, if you want to get on the first home buyers sort of, on that ladder, you're actually getting mum and dad to help out, or if you can, or a brother.
That's really interesting, Tyson, and that's what our job's about. It's about assessing where they're at and looking at solutions and bringing in other parties to those applications, if that's a possibility.
Yeah,
I know from a overall company point of view of statistic, about 70% of our first home buyers have some sort of assistance from Bank of Mum and Dad. And look, so often the first home buyers, they're they feel like they haven't done enough, or they haven't done. But realistically, it's not them, because what 25-year-old is walking around with $150,000 in their KiwiSaver? It's simply the price of the houses and the amount of deposit required. So I think if there's a first home buyer watching this video, then consider some sort of family assistance if possible. And look, I know it's not always possible, but yeah, it is the norm. You're not the the outlier in this scenario. Yeah. So and the banks have all sorts of systems to assess whether you can't just go and grab someone on the street and say, hey, come buy a house with me. A buyer of convenience is very unpopular with the banks. But a buyer of natural love and affection, they call it, which describes some families, but not all. It would be fair to say. But bring a family member in, and that may help you, as I say, springboard into that first home, and that may get you enough equity to get you in the next one. Yeah.
Now, it's going to be very interesting times ahead, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if I could say one thing to buyers, it would be tidy up your spending. If you've got good spending habits, then you've got good income, and that will allow you to buy more with less deposit, because the good income people can go to less than 20% deposit. But it all tracks back to, don't spend your money on silly things on your phone, or just minimize your excessive spending would be the first step, I think. Bryony, would you agree on that?
I was just going to say, it's quite easy to shave off a little bit of discretionary spend, right, off your weekly bills, if you put your mind to it. Sorry, Bryony.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Tyson. It's just about showing your ability to save and actioning it, basically. And you really need to show the bank that you can make those payments in a comfortable way, not causing hardship. So yeah.
To be fair, I mean, I've got a banking background. This isn't a new thing, like first home buyers struggling to get into the market. I mean, I remember myself, I really, really battled to do so. And, the bank managers were sort of saying to me, Tyson, you've got to shave, stop your smashed avocado sort of thing on Saturdays, So I don't think this is a new thing. But it's really at the forefront right now, I think. So I agree with you, Rupert. If you can just get your balance sheet looking nice and tidy, or your bank statement looking nice and tidy, I think the banks would look quite favourably, I imagine.
I saw a newspaper article from 1923 the other day that basically said, home buyers, you're not going to be able to afford to get into the market. It is definitely not a new thing. And of course, that's the way it goes, because if everyone can afford to get in there, lots of buyers, house prices go up. It's economics, right? As say, Bryony, it's supply and demand. So it's always going to be on that edge of there's a percentage of people that can't afford it, and the other people are pushing it up. But I think really it's now. I think probably the key difference from, say, a year or more ago is that you used to be able to say more of, well, when I buy that house, I'll stop blah blah blah, Uber Eats or whatever. And now the banks are hard line in the sand. That's tough. You've shown that you use these buy now pay later functions, or excessive takeaways. We have to assume you're going to use these in the future, and that's quite a transition from we promise not to buy avocado on toast after we've got a mortgage. Anyway, That's a transition that everyone will make, I think, and start to learn.
Yeah.
Right. Well, hey, let's wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on, Tyson and Bryony. That's really good chat about the market. Obviously, Tyson, if they want to speak to anyone at Proppy, just go to the proppy.co.nz website.
That's exactly right. www.proppy.co.nz, and my team will be there to help.
Brilliant. And if they want to talk to you, Bryony, they just search Bryony Mortgage Lab. They'll find you for sure. A reminder that anyone anywhere in New Zealand can deal with Bryony. She can do it via this type of function, the Zoom, Google Meet type function, and organize your mortgage. So thanks everyone for joining me. That's we'll probably wrap it up there, eh?
You're welcome.
Thanks guys.
Cheers.
Brilliant. All right.